The Arizona Cardinals are signing tight end Trey McBride to a record-breaking extension. Massive deal for the Cards and their top playmaker. How we found out of the deal, you're not going to want to miss this one, Johnny Venerable.
Yeah, Mike Garafolo joins the show to talk about Trey and his payday, plus two new names broken on this show. Top 30 visits exclusive to PHNX Cardinals you won't find anywhere else. PHNX Cardinals starts now. Hey, welcome in. Live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K on a Trey McBride payday. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier, number one in the world, Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. What a show we have for you on a Football Thursday. It is presented by our presenting sponsor, our friends in Studio K. It's Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. I'm Johnny Venerable. He's in Studio K. Mr. Bull Brack. Damon, Dawg, producer extraordinaire behind the mic. What a show. What a show.
Today, we are all McBridesmaids. That's right. We stand by honorably, and we're going to sit, and we're going to probably tell you a nice maid of honor speech, and it's going to make everybody all teary-eyed, maybe some laughs and also involved. But a fond hello to Claymore Jones, Mike Meyer. How about Boise, John O, Shaft, Nacho Libre, Mr. Fat Gangster, Bonnie Brockable, like that name. How about Justin, Corey, the Stew, Eli? The squad's here to celebrate on a Trey McBride Thursday here in the PHNX Cardinals community. Make sure, as Johnny said, like this video. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. And Johnny, as expected, Monty Ossenfort, Trey McBride, his representatives, they got together. They got a deal done, an historic one. And some will say the best one. And they are going to keep the guy in the fold until 2029.
Yeah, he's the best young tight end in the NFL. I know a lot of people still want to put George Kittle, not Travis Kelce now. And you can argue kind of apples and oranges. The best ascending tight end in the NFL by a large margin. It's not Brack Bowers. It's Trey McBride. As a second-round pick from Steve Keim once upon a time, we'll give him due credit today. A final parting gift is number 85, and this was deserving. We're going to talk about the impact from, I think, a public relations standpoint. The Cardinals, they are not the Bengals, right? They're not holding out on their own. They're taking care of Budda Baker and James Conner and now Trey McBride. This is the best young blue-chip player on the team, bar none. Doesn't matter about position, right? And I love Paris and Kyler and Marv. Trey McBride is the best player on the team. And you look at this contract, and I think it's very team-friendly.
Yeah.
Based on what I know, Trey McBride brings to the Cardinals each and every Sunday. He's a tone setter. Like, very rarely do you get a tone setter at tight end, right? Most of the time, it's edge rusher, quarterback, whatever. It's like, no, the Cardinals' best player. Think back to the Carolina loss. And it was Trey McBride shouting out expletives because he was so upset about that loss. That's what you want. He's a perfect extension of this franchise, of this community, and he's not going anywhere. The best news of the day, on top of Trey getting paid, is everybody here in the chat, everybody watching at home, you get to see the peak years of Trey McBride as an Arizona Cardinal.
Yeah, a position that was so futile for far too long with this organization, right? I mean, it's just, it all just came together. The right player had to do it, right, to buck this trend. And it was every penny of this extension was earned from Trey McBride. The complete package, the guy that was the Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner for the Cardinals organization, a guy that was a second-round pick that was panned, and not a lot of people loved the selection, 55th overall, the first guy off the board for the Cardinals that draft after they traded their first-round pick inexplicably for Hollywood Brown. But you got Trey McBride, who went from kind of like hey, was this the right move to take him in the second round with Zach Ertz on the roster? To this is a guy that you will you go to war for. This is a guy that goes to war for his team each and every week. And he said, as he said, the tone setter. Can he be a vocal point of an offense at the tight end position? We've seen that works in the NFL, and he's the most proven commodity that they have on that side of the football. Like, sure, you've got high aspirations and expectations for Marvin Harrison Jr. and even Kyler Murray himself, but Trey McBride is the most proven commodity that they have offensively. It's not like, hey, where can they go? Where they've gone already and where they want to continue to go with Trey McBride. He's already done it at such a high level over the last 2 years. Like, ever since they kind of got rid of Zach Ertz and, where he had the quad injury, goes on IR, and then never comes back, Trey McBride has not relinquished to look back at his opportunity here. And I don't expect him to do now that he's secured the bag for the first time in his career.
I mean, I call a spade a spade. Like, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory based on his catches and his yardage. I think, I'll be a fanboy here. 6.5 minutes into the show, I think he has more than 1-2 touchdowns next year. I think there's a chance he could have 10 touchdowns next year. I think he's going to be that much of a focal point in the red zone. I think he's going to iron out the deficiencies, if you want to call them that, between he and K1, or the miscommunication. I think Trey McBride is going to put together an even better season than he did this past year. I think the volume is going to stay consistent. You're signing this player to be the focal point of your offense moving forward. Like, Kyler Murray is the conductor. They're very close, rightfully so. Marv's just going into his second year. We all expect him to have a pop year. Trey McBride is the most expensive player on this offense, not named Kyler Murray. I mean, this is where the offense runs through for until further notice. And again, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, these kind of deals, we haven't had too many lately, where it's like, great player, drafted, developed, boom, get a second contract, right? Like, was Kyler Murray the last one to have a deal like this, right? Maybe Jalen Thompson a couple years ago. It has been few and far between, and it speaks to the Cardinals' inconsistencies drafting under Steve Keim. Now, Austin Ford, he's got guys like Garrett Williams and Paris who we feel like are on that trajectory. But this is meaningful because he's the number one paid player at his position. This never got to a point where you had to sweat it out, Trey Hendrickson style. And we're going to talk about that with Mike Garafolo. You never had to sweat it out as a Cardinal fan.
Right.
Is Trey McBride going to be there on Sundays? Can I buy an 85 jersey for my son or my daughter? Nope. It's all handled. It's handled in April, by the way, just like James and Buddha were handled early before you had to sweat it in free agency. Give immense amount of credit to Monty Austin Ford. Like, I was critical early, and I stick the landing in the draft. He's about as good of an offseason as you can expect for the GM.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, for him, like, the Cardinals, as far as playing their side of this thing, and then also Trey's camp, Trey included, you couldn't have been more transparent about what you wanted without giving up any ground negotiation-wise. But both of them, in the press, talking to us, Trey McBride's like, I want to be here. Monty Austin Ford in Indianapolis is like, that's a priority for us. We want to get it done. And that was, as you'll hear from Mike Garafolo, that's been kind of the theme this offseason. And they weren't going to kind of take, pull any punches here, or, have some unnecessary, leaking of information to try to drive the price down or whatever. This was just like, hey, we want to reward you for your play. We want you to be a Cardinal going forward. You encapsulate everything we want on and off the field. Let's keep you around for the bulk of your career, if not the entirety of it. Yeah, Trey McBride absolutely does have fire in his gut. He does it for the Cardinals. And, it's a great day. I mean, you have to go back to, and I don't know if Kyler got to hold the highest paid player at his position crown at all. I don't know if he did.
I think Deshaun Watson had it.
Yeah. So, like, you have to go back to Patrick Peterson.
Chandler Jones,
maybe Chandler Jones. Tyrann Mathieu in there. I mean, that was the era, though. I mean, that was just like every offseason. It was Peterson. It was Honey Badger. It was, as you mentioned, Chandler Jones. It was guys signing big deals to be, and they would be atop their respective position groups as the highest player, because that's the caliber of player you had. And then there was just this big lag between those years and now. And now you finally got one, and I don't think it's going to be the last. I think you got the opportunity in a couple seasons with Paris Johnson Jr., Garrett Williams. You know, if you want to say like who's the highest paid slot corner, like he probably will be. He's on that type of trajectory. But like for Trey McBride to kind of be the Neil Armstrong of this thing and be the first one to walk on the moon for the Cardinals, that's great.
I'm going to carry water for the organization, and usually we're pretty neutral and consistent with our takes here. And we were very critical of the grades, not the PFA, the Players Association grades. I wanted to say PFF grades. 32nd, they finished last. The narrative that the Cardinals like don't pay players has been an outdated one. Can we put that to bed, please? Like they don't do everything right. Certainly, they got to update their training facility. They have always paid players. The problem, they just haven't had good enough players to pay.
Pour one out for that narrative.
It's like, listen, all the names we just talked about. Chandler Jones got a deal. D-Hop got a deal. Kyler Murray got a deal, right? James Conner's gotten 2 deals from this franchise. They have paid everybody. The only reason Zach Allen didn't get paid is they blew up the roster and they had new people in charge, and it was basically a gray area, and he walked, right? And he had every right to be. Like, Trey McBride, this never even got to a point where we had to sweat this out. Look at this earlier offseason. They spent over $100 million on their defensive line. They have not been perfect when it comes to paying players, and sometimes they pay the wrong guys. But this narrative that the Cardinals are some poverty franchise that nickel and dimes like a lot of these organizations, it's not true. Garrett Williams is going to get paid. Paris Johnson Jr. is going to get paid. If Marvin has a big year, like Larry Fitzgerald before him, we will always get paid. The only time where it was a little bit uncomfortable is Kyler's contract. They had not given out a $200+ million contract before. So like that did not go as smoothly as you would like, but most franchises haven't. They can operate in the area of $50, $100, $125 million. Like, so the next time that people want to throw shade at this franchise, and there are things to be critical of, and we are critical every day when it calls for it, that the Cardinals are cheap and they don't spend money with the salary cap. Just tune those people. They have just no idea what they're talking about. They've always paid people.
They have. I mean, even when it came to like Honey Badger and how much of a disaster that whole thing was.
Right.
You know, where they paid him a ton of money, and then he didn't come back from the injury quite so well, and then they ended up having to make a tough decision. Like that was dumb, but they paid him. They paid, and then they paid Chandler Jones, as you mentioned. They paid Patrick Peterson. They paid Kyler Murray. It's a huge misconception. Like where the organization falls short. I mean, it really kind of shows in the player NFL PA grades is as far as the facilities. That's where they're learning their lesson. Like, hey, you're investing in the team, but it's more than that. You can't nickel and dime the facilities. Like you got to have top-notch facilities. And, you know, I think they've learned their lesson and they're trying to remedy that and fix it. But yeah, I've never understood that. That's something that I will always push back on when people will say like Michael Bidwill's cheap. That's why they missed out on this player. It's like, all right, guys, let's end this conversation, because if that's your belief, then it's not coming from a place of facts and logic.
And then I'll even go one further. And we know this definitively, and we knew it the day he was signed. Justin Fry, their new offensive line coach, had about 4 or 5 suitors. And the minute that the Cardinals lost Clayton Adams, and the minute that they got a commitment, they had him done to a deal that paid him well. That doesn't go into the salary cap, right? You got to pay that out of pocket for coaches. They did that. They had no issue with it. It was done in a matter of hours. So again, we're going to be positive day. There's a lot to talk about. Let's talk about Mike Garafolo and how this all went down. Because if you haven't been on Twitter this afternoon, well, first of all, welcome, friends. We pre-taped our segment like we typically do with Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network, NFL Insiders. And he let us know it's like time to talk about Trey McBride. And this is before the news broke. And he wouldn't use the word imminent, but he used the word close and basically made it sound like it was going to be a matter of hours, right? And then we do the segment, and he's like, how fast can you guys put that out on social media? Because he's like, by the time you air it this afternoon, it might be old news. So we pushed and got it up, and then literally 3 minutes later, Schefter had the final numbers on it.
The team announced it.
Yeah.
The team announced it as soon as we tweeted out our clip with Mike Garafolo that he banged us over the head with. Said, "Hey guys, you might want to get this out." And we're like, "Yeah, Mike, we'll get it out." He's like, "Yeah, you might, maybe a little bit more urgency.
We'll have some lunch, maybe.
Yeah,
get a smoothie,
get it out there." And next thing you know, my email inbox has a nice little press release from the Arizona Cardinals saying that they've signed Trey McBride to a 4-year extension. I mean, it wasn't 2 minutes.
Right.
It wasn't 2 minutes. We talked to Mike Garafolo at the top of the 1:00 hour today, recorded our interview with him. And he, all along the way, he's like, "I'm excited about this trade thing. I think it's going to happen soon." As he said, he didn't want to say imminent, but he's also like, "Hey guys, this thing might be happening soon." And then next thing you know, it's bearing right down on us. And the Arizona Cardinals have locked in Trey McBride through the 2029 season.
We got 630 already watching live. Jump on over to YouTube, hit that like button for the #1 Cardinal podcast in existence. Yeah, I mean, just celebratory day. We're going to continue to talk about Trey McBride, the impact this has on the rest of the roster, who could be next for an extension. But right around the corner, Mike Garafolo, the full interview, exclusive, just like the Trey McBride news, exclusive to PHNX Cardinals. Mike Garafolo drops 2 names, notable names we've talked about for some time, that have or will be taking a top 30 visit with the Arizona Cardinals. These are guys that we're going to talk about for Pick 16. Mike G, NFL Network, right around the corner with the scoop, Bo.
Of course, we're going to lead with this one. You've got to. I mean, you're wearing it.
This was a gift, this hat from Branded Bills, from the highest paid tight end in the NFL, Trey McBride. He gifted it to me. It was basically gift wrap with a personalized note for your boy. And now Trey McBride can afford all the Branded Bills hats he wants. And you bet your ass he's going to use the 20% off with the bonus code PHNX. But you guys like what you see? Is this good enough for Trey McBride? It's good enough for you. Right now, check out Branded Bills. Elevate your brand with Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. Whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitted beanies, or tees, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style, my friends. Looking for some gear to make your brand stand out amongst the crowd? They've got you covered with the best custom headwear money can buy. Start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need. They have a partnership with ASU, U of A, and PHNX Sports, locally owned and operated out of Mesa, Arizona. Love that. Head to brandedbills.com. Again, PHNX is the bonus code for 20% off, Bo.
Remember when we tried to press Trey on what he would purchase once he signed this big deal and he was too humble to really say anything? I'll tell you what I would do if I was signing a big deal like that. $43 million guaranteed, $76 million overall. I'd head over to Sanderson Ford and I'd just go pick out a couple cars off the lot. Oh, Ford F-150 Raptor. Yeah, I'll take maybe 2 of them. Let's do that. Let's get maybe one of the Bronco Big Bens. Those are beautiful. PHNX is the proud partner of Sanderson Ford, actually our official vehicle partner. And Truck Month, sure, it was the end of last of March, but they always like to celebrate Truck Month. It's basically every month over at Sanderson Ford. Choose from an entire lineup of Mavericks, Rangers, F-150 Super Duties. Also check out those Broncos, as I was talking about, Bronco Sports. You can see what kind of deals they have. They thrive on their no hassle, no nonsense, no pressure sales approach. They just want to tell you about their great vehicles and make a good deal that makes sense to you. Check them out right now. It's a dealership that's built on, of course, their customer satisfaction. You got the 2024 models. Finance offers 36-month OAC through Ford Credit. Discounts include Ford rebates, Sanderson discounts, plus trade assistance and Conquest Cash you must qualify for. Check them out. Sanderson Ford in the West Valley, from America for America. You got the employee pricing with Sanderson Ford.
Love our friends at Sanderson Ford. And pull up in a new Sanderson Ford to Dobson Ranch. How about that? A week from Saturday right now, it's the annual PHNX Cardinals, PHNX Sports Green Jacket Open. Bo's going to be playing in a foursome. Damon and I will be screwing around in golf carts, helping out, having a ball. Dobson Ranch Golf Course. The scramble to end all scrambles. They've got the 2 p.m. start time for that shotgun. Limited edition, by the way. PHNX gift pack. We got spots open. We want to see you there. If you're a diehard, you're going to get 20% off the enrollment. Again, 20% off. Get your foursome in. Let's have a ball. Weather has been chef's kiss perfect here in the Valley. One of the last times you're going to be able to golf with a breeze. Do it with all of us. Have a blast. We will see you on the course, Dobson Ranch Golf Course, for the Green Jacket Open.
Get this guy back on the show, PHNX Cardinals. It's Mike Garafolo, the Insiders. Make sure you follow along on Twitter, on X, at Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, NFL Media. And Mike, big reunion went down earlier this week. Not this reunion right here, even though it's, it's big to get Mike back on the show. But Calais Campbell, after a layoff, 9 seasons in the desert after being second-round pick, signs a 1-year deal. $5.5 million deal, $7.5 million max contract to reunite Calais with the Cardinals. What can you tell our audience about what went into this reunion?
Yeah, apparently he had a few possibilities and was exploring them up until the last day before making the decision. And the idea of coming back there with a new regime, knowing what we've talked about repeatedly here with you guys, that this was going to be an offseason of upgrading that defensive line and bringing in guys that were not only experienced, but guys that they had familiarity with, or in his case, familiarity with the organization. So he's still got plenty left in the tank, and this deal proves that. I mean, it proves that the Cardinals believe that that's the case as well. To sign him to this deal at this point of free agency, it's been year to year. Considering retirement a couple of years ago, still got plenty left in the tank, a respected guy, and a guy who's going to show guys how to work day in and day out. Perhaps, we're going to talk about the draft in a second. If they draft a young guy, passing off that knowledge to him, if it's somebody that's on the defensive line, certainly.
Mike, that Calais deal kind of came out of nowhere. Is there anything you're hearing kind of from a transactional standpoint with the Arizona Cardinals that could be coming up following the Campbell deal?
Would you count Trey McBride?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's throw Trey McBride in there. My understanding is they have been working on this. They made this a priority, and they wanted this done early in the spring. And I believe it's close. There's different levels of close. Sometimes you use the word imminent when you really think it's happening in the immediate. I would not be surprised if it was imminent. I definitely know that it's close. It's something that both sides have worked on and have made a priority to get it done as soon as possible. We know it's going to be a big number that he deserves. I believe that Trey McBride's going to have a contract extension in the near future. Yes.
I mean, the parameter is tough to nail down until we actually see the number probably, reported by yourself. But Can we use TJ Hawkinson as maybe the blueprint here? Who's the last guy really at that position to get the extension?
Yeah, I mean, Travis Kelce had a deal done. Now, his has been kind of funky over the last couple of years. So I think we're upwards of 17 million on that, if I want to say correctly. I mean, Hawkinson was 16, I think. So I think at this point, and this is a market really that hadn't been pushed for years, and I think they're still lagging because of that. I mean, Rob Gronkowski was the top tight end, and for years, as we've seen the Patriots do, took team-friendly deals. So this is a market that probably should be in the 20s, and maybe Trey McBride pushes it, if not there, at least close to that point there. So I would say if he's the highest paid tight end after this, I would not be surprised at all.
Sticking on the theme of free agency here, the Cardinals brought in Asante Samuel Jr. like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then there's been nothing as a result between him and the Cardinals and him in general. Like it hasn't been reported he's taken another visit. What's happened to his market? Are teams super fearful of the shoulder concerns that set him on a path to not play very much with the Chargers last year?
Yeah, it's a medical thing. Yeah, I've heard that from teams that it is a medical concern for him. If not, I mean, he'd be signed. He's young enough and he's got enough ability that right now it is a medical thing for him. It was a shoulder/neck. If I'm, I don't have the full details in front of me, but it was. I mean, he mentioned that I think right before the start of free agency somewhere. So I think everybody at that point sort of knew it was on that point. So for him to come in, there's not a signing immediately. Certainly an indication that there is a red flag there, not just for him, but for a few teams. We'll see how it plays out. He was a terrific young player when healthy. Would love to see him get a second chance here to play in the NFL and get that medical clearance. TBD, I haven't heard anything lately on that, but I know that it was a medical thing that was really pausing his free agency.
One answer removed from talking about, Trey McBride and consistent, clarification, communication between him and his organization on, an extension on a contract tweak. We go to Trey Hendrickson and, what he's talking about on the Pat McAfee show the other day saying there's not great communication between him and the Bengals. Where do you see this going? Is this just going to be an ugly negotiation that's going to end up with Hendrickson staying in Cincinnati, or what do you get the feel, your gut feeling in, is he staying there in the jungle, or is he going to go elsewhere before the end of the offseason?
It's just been so hard because teams that are interested are going to have to pay both the Bengals a premium and Hendrickson a premium. We're up to $40 million per year on edge rushers. He's not going to get there, and he knows he's not going to get there. So it's a number around where Max Crosby is. Crosby's at 35. Which, the top of the market has been pushed, and that second tier has been pushed as well. I think that's fair. He's older than these guys at this point. So, a number that's not at that top number for a guy who led the league in sacks, I think is fair. And it's on it doesn't have to be a 5-year deal. It could be a 3-year extension. He's set to make, I believe, $16 million this upcoming season. So you do it from that perspective. 16. Crosby's at 35. That's not even halfway there. And I understand it. Like you did a deal, and by the end of the deal, it doesn't look as good because other guys have done deals. It happens everywhere. It happens at every position. But for a guy now who's got one last bite at the apple before he starts to, you would think, trend a little bit downward, but still has good football left in him, I think that's the number. Now, look, the Bengals and what they said, and Katie Blackburn saying, well, he should be happy at numbers, which I don't know. I mean, if she's saying, let's say she's saying 30, right? That's where he should be happy. I understand why he wouldn't be happy there, and I understand why he would want more. But the problem is to pay that number and to give up the compensation that the Bengals want in return on a trade is just been too much for teams with regard to trading for him.
We're 3 weeks away to the date for the first round of the NFL draft. So it's been tough, Mike. We haven't heard a ton of top 30 visits in relation to the Arizona Cardinals that respectfully warrant the 16th overall pick.
Yeah.
We've got Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. Any guys that you have heard that have either on schedule to take one or have already taken one maybe that would be a clear top 20 selection?
I meant to make even more calls on this for you guys. I just started to canvass the market a little bit. I got 2 yeses back. Jalon Walker, I believe, has already made his visit there. So Jalon Walker coming in to visit the Cardinals. And James Pearce Jr. is, I don't think it's happened yet, but it's going to happen before the draft. So you see, and I saw what Monty Asenfort said down at Palm Beach at the annual meeting about at 16, they feel like they don't have a need, which is good. I mean, you're in the middle of the first round. Once you get past the top 10, you're at the mercy of what's happening in front of you. So to not have a need and to feel like you filled a lot of those requirements in free agency, that's where you want to be. And I understand where he's coming from, and I completely agree with that. But this is a team that still wants to get better off the edge, wants to get better up front. Josh Sweat was a good signing, but if you get maybe 2 years out of him and you get a young guy who can develop, and then you can move on from Sweat after the guaranteed portion of the deal or shortly thereafter, that's what you feel good about because you've got the present and you've got the future. And these guys at 16, if you're a pass rusher at 16, you better be able to contribute right away. And a lot of these guys are being discussed as pro-ready guys who can come in and can have an impact, come work on the finer details of their game as they progress. So you see what they're nosing around right here. It doesn't mean that the full list is going to be all pass rushers, all guys off the edge or whatever. But clearly this is still in their minds something that they would love to fill a need. Now, if it doesn't work out that way, or if somebody else falls and it's on the offensive side of the ball or whatnot, you're still feeling good about the fact that you did your work on these guys. But I think if they have their druthers, they've got a couple of defensive guys, edge rushers that are at them at 16. I keep saying 16. It's 16, right?
Yeah.
That's the number.
16.
Yeah, okay. So make sure I'm not getting it wrong. that are there for them at 16, the perfect middle point of the first round. And you're able to get a good talent and a guy that fills the need too.
Two very intriguing prospects there. I think Jalon Walker, it's like, will he reach 16?
Yeah.
But Cardinals fans, they hear versatile Swiss Army knife off-ball linebacker who's converting, like they kind of have a knee-jerk reaction negatively. But as far as James Pearce Jr., very polarizing prospect, a lot of noise off the field. What are you hearing as far as within league circles? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze with a guy like James Pearce Jr.? Can you fill our audience in on the context of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely 60. A lot of times later in the first round is where you go. The red flags almost at that point don't matter if you got the talent there. At 16, it's like, are you right on that cusp? Because once you're in the 20s, I say this all the time. It's like, teams that want first round picks in exchange for once you get, if it's a first round pick early on, that's great. But once you get into the 20s, it is almost, you're starting to get into coin flip territory as to whether or not these guys are going to start to work out here. So, he's got the ability. Is he elite as a pass rusher? No, but he's got what the tools that you need to at least be effective in the NFL. So, I mean, I'll have to continue to kind of nose around this one as we get closer to the draft. But I know there are going to be some teams that are going to be high on him. It's just going to be the question of is that the right point to make the move for him.
We don't assume the Cardinals are in the market for Shedeur Sanders or a quarterback within the first round. But Mike, in relation to this show, it's important that several quarterbacks go ahead of them and pick 16 to push good players down, like maybe a Jalon Walker. Hypothetically, New York Giants pass on Shedeur Sanders. And I want to get your take on Shedeur right now as it stands, whether it's Cleveland or the Giants. Is he going to fall? Should he fall from the Giants at pick 3? Where does he go? How far can he fall for, a quarterback needing?
Yeah, I just don't think too far. I really don't. I'm starting to see some talk about out of the top 10. I'm not buying it. There's enough there. There's enough ability there. I know the questions about the interviews and whatnot, and there's even concerns about how much, he'll hold the football and the way that he tries to escape, stuff that you can't do in the NFL, habits you're going to have to break. But the guy's got ability, and there are not enough teams. It's just like in free agency when you see some of these guys that are signing because there's just not enough quarterbacks to go around. And I really believe that if he gets past the Giants at 3, now you're going to get into Raiders territory, Jets possibly, trade up. You got the Saints lurking there. I just don't see a world where Shedeur Sanders is outside of the top 10. In my mind, there's just too much ability there, too much talent. Yeah, there's more that comes with it, and certainly he turned off some people in those interviews. But it's just in a draft bereft with top end quarterback talent, I think he's still there for me.
The 16, does it start to become one of those appealing spots for teams? Like, it feels like the quarterback class has been very quiet. You're talking about maybe some momentum for Shedeur to stay in that top 10.
Yep.
Jackson Dart seems to be a guy that continues to trend that way. Like, could 16 be a spot where the Cardinals could, benefit from a trade down for a quarterback hungry team?
Yeah, it could be. Usually it's at the back end of the top 10, like 11, 12 is a lot of times a sweet spot. But, I mean, it depends on how it falls. If it gets to that point and there's just teams that don't want to jump out because, well, we got a guy here and there's so much value and we want to take the guy that's in front of us. A lot of times and this is why a million calls are made before the draft to kind of gauge, if we wanted to come up from here, what would you, I just, when you say 16, I laugh because I see, Jackson Dart, teams projected the trade to 32. And it's like, if teams are high on him, it's going to be in the teens or 20s. Nobody's waiting until 32 at that point to come in there. It's not Lamar Jackson. Like, enough teams were convinced Lamar Jackson wasn't a quarterback. And that's why the Ravens were able to get him at 32, which is kind of crazy when you look back, obviously. Yeah. But I just, when you talk about 16, I would start the watch at that point for Jackson Dart, because I just feel like teams are like, let's say the Giants don't go Shedeur at 3, he goes somewhere else. They got to come in and get somebody, right? And at some point, you got to stop messing around. It's just like when you're drafting a guy, when they drafted Daniel Jones was this the draft? He drafted him at 6. That's the year they had 3 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. And everybody's like, well, you could have gotten Daniel with the 2nd of the 3rd-round pick. And it's like, no, if he's your quarterback and you like him and you want him at 15 or whatever it was, you take him at 6. It's the same kind of thing. Like, if you like Jackson Dart enough and you've got a need to get your guy a franchise quarterback of the future, you come in a little earlier. Say, well, I'll wait till 32. You come in and get him where you want to get him there in the first round.
Tedero McMillan, staying local here. with our guy out of Tucson. Initially was thought of coming into the year as a top 10 selection. Now people have him like wide receiver 3, 4, and then it's come out like he doesn't like watch film. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but like, where do you see kind of his floor and his ceiling right now for the local product at a U of A?
That's a hard one for me to say because I don't know the kid, and I haven't done enough work to say he doesn't. But when you start to hear that stuff, it's very rarely wrong, right? There's at least something there. And I know I think after his pro day, someone tried to put out a number that wasn't really what he ran, and then all of a sudden people were saying, no, the number was here. And agents can do that from time to time. Say, oh, well, I had a team that timed him at whatever. Well, maybe that dude had a fast thumb. Maybe there was a 38-yard dash that he timed, and and everybody else was good. Why obviously they focus on the best number, So I think that hurt things, and it starts to set in. It starts to set a tone of not panic, but like it starts to set a tone of. Well, we got to put out a great number here because the stock is starting to fall a little bit. So I think I saw a number of projection around 18 or so in the first round. I mean, at some point there's going to be enough talent there, like we talked about with Pearce. There's enough talent that you want to be able to grab that, because if you hit on it, it's a premier talent at a premier position.
We'll wrap with this one, another local product with conflicting reports on his 40 time, but officially the NFL, from his private workout, Cam Scadaboo had a 4.65 40-yard dash. That goes with an impressive combine performance. You saw the broad jump, you saw the vert. It was good, 39.5, plus the production. What's your sense as far as Cam Scadaboo? Because we're getting the feeling like day 3 for the Sun Devils start.
Yeah, but early day 3. I think he's early day 3, round 4, something like that. It's just sometimes you get into that. Now you got a football player, right? And I was messing with Kyle Brandt one day. I said, sneaky athletic, and he did a whole segment. I said, Mike, you're not helping. You're not helping. I said, well, I'll just make it a joke, because we know what it's about. But he's a football player, and a lot of the stuff that you see that he does on tape and he did in the bowl game is not. You don't measure that. You don't measure that during a workout. You measure that on the football field, in your pads, what you see on film. There's plenty of that with him. And he's just a tough, hard-nosed kid. Players like that don't usually last until the back end of day 3. So I'm looking early day 3 for him. And he's going to make the roster. And he's going to, because once you get into, I think I did the numbers on this. Once you get into round 5, because I did this because like teams are reluctant to give up 5th round picks. I was like, let's go back to last year. I forget when it was. It wasn't this year. It was like 2 years ago. Let's go and see what happens to 5th round picks. 50% of them make the roster. 50%. Once you get in the 5th round. So like you won't give up a 5th round pick to trade for a guy that you know exactly what you're getting, has played in the league before. So when I say he's going to make the roster, you'd be like, well, duh. Well, once you get into day 3, it is a coin flip for these guys. Now they could be on the practice squad, obviously, but I think he gets drafted early day 3. I think he makes a roster. And I think at some point we're like, why wasn't this guy drafted sooner? Right. With everything we knew. So we'll see.
Mike, we've taken up so much of your time. Real quick, I want to throw something at you. Yeah. Just maybe for the next time you visit with us. Okay. We know that the Cardinals potentially are in the running for an international game. The schedule release comes out in about a month's time. Have you heard anything as it relates to the Cardinals going overseas this year?
I have not. I also wouldn't buy it this early. I wait until we get closer. To the schedule release. That's when I start to believe the rumors. I always see these ones that start to leak out like a week before the schedule release, and they're never right, ever right, because they keep that tight. But once they start to get closer, they start to send them out to the – I always say, like, why don't you just wait and not send it to anybody? Well, no, the team social media people have to have it ready, and we got to send it to here, promotional stuff and all that. So once you start sending it to people – and it gets out. Now, me working for the NFL Network, I'm not allowed to scoop that stuff anyway. So I just sit back and wait for the thing to be announced. But maybe if I find out, I'll just wink to you guys behind.
That'd be great.
No, I won't. That's not allowed. We'll see. We'll see. I enjoyed the visit. I'm looking for. I can't wait for this Trey McBride thing. Like I really truly believe. What time's this getting posted? Soon, I hope, because
Yeah.
It may be that close that we're saying this, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, close. Duh, it was announced an hour ago." So let's get this up. We'll see. Trey McBride about to get a well-deserved payday.
We're also breaking news that Trey McBride's joining Kyler Murray in a celebrity softball game. So big Trey McBride news day. Doesn't mean yours a little bit more important than ours.
No, I'm down. I get it. This is great.
Come out. We're gonna be there. Come out, Mike.
I would love to. When is it?
It's
May 17th.
May 17th.
Triple digits already out here.
Sounds perfect. Let's see if I can make it.
Awesome stuff. Invaluable insight you're not going to get anywhere else about your team, the Arizona Cardinals, from our guy Mike Garafolo. Check him out, the Insiders, NFL Network, and of course on social media, YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at Mike Garafolo. Thank you, Mike. Talk to you next week.
You got it, boys. Thank you.
Unbelievable stuff. There you go. I mean, Mike Garafolo, scholar, a gentleman, an insider, can't even stop himself. I mean, even as he's in an interview with us, he's breaking more news on the Twitter streets, Johnny.
Yeah, in response to our clip, he added another name to the top 30 visits. We're going to unveil that next for your favorite fanboy podcast. It's PHNX Cardinals.
Just like Mike's telling us and spreading the word of the top 30 visits and Trey McBride extensions, we're spreading the word of our friends over at Cornbread Hemp, Johnny. I mean, Cornbread Hemp, they're looking to do it right. They want you to do it right as well with their first USDA organic CBD. They're the first USDA CBD company in the United States. Looking for that healthier way to relieve aches and pains while getting a better night's sleep? Try Cornbread Hemp's USDA organic CBD gummies. They offer the first USDA organic CBD gummy in the United States. Certified organic, flower only, third-party lab tested, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free with no artificial flavors or preservatives. They're not messing around. They offer free shipping as well. Are you looking for, have I said anything that you disagree with? Because it's all good with Cornbread Hemp products. They got the 30-day better life guarantee as well. Go take their 2-minute quiz right now on their website, cornbreadhemp.com. Also go cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX and use the code PHNX for 30% off your first order. That's 30% off your first order from Cornbread Hemp at cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX. Use the code PHNX. This is the good life with Cornbread Hemp.
You're going to be living the good life with Cornbread Hemp. You're going to be living the good life with PHNX Cardinals draft party. Where is it at? Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass. When is it? Flipping 3 weeks from today, and there are a select number of tickets left. We want to see you at the draft party and all draft parties. We're going to break down these top 30 visits in a second, and we're going to be talking about it. I would imagine a player that's going to be picked by this franchise. Come party with us. Myself, Bo, Damon, Espo will be hanging around. How about our guy, Shane Diefenbach, Leah, the whole gang? We're going to be hanging out at Wild Horse Pass. We want to see you there. Get your tickets now and then go out and spend some time at the most premier sportsbook casino in Arizona, Tops, #1. Visit playatgila.com for more information. Your ticket right now, we'll put a link in the description. It's going to get you all-you-can-eat buffet. It's going to get you 3 drink tickets. We're going to be hanging out for like 5-6 hours. We're going to be on air. We're going to be off air. There are going to be giveaways. It's going to be surprise guest appearances. Hopefully, we're going to be doing a ton of stuff, and we want to see you there. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. We will see you at our draft party. I cannot wait, Bo. 3 weeks from today, the Upper Deck Kitchen and Bar. If you get your tickets, tag us on Twitter, retweet, 20% off for diehards. Again, if you're thinking about making plans stop, these are the plans you're having. Get your tickets now. I promise they will sell out.
Yeah, they will. Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass. Also, Johnny and I are working on something this summer. It's going to be the perfect place to take a staycation. Why not do it with them? And also join us later this month at our draft party, Draft Day Live with PHNX Cardinals. Unbelievable stuff from Mike Garafolo as we return here to PHNX Cards, Johnny. And while we were doing it, while he was breaking down some top 30 visits from Jalon Walker out of Georgia, the versatile linebacker who played more off-ball linebacker snaps than off the edge, where he projects at the next level. Also, James Pearce Jr. Mike jumps in our Twitter mentions and said, oh, don't forget about Jalon Walker's Georgia teammate, Mykel Williams, also took a visit with the Arizona Cardinals.
Wow, it's like Christmas came early. We were sitting here on the show yesterday, and we're like, who are they working out at, top 30 visits? Not working out, but meeting with. that warrants the 16th overall pick. We had like 1.5 guys, right? Like Will Johnson and maybe sort of kind of Shamar Stewart, although nobody loves that idea. And then boom, 3 players today. I would call them the elite 3 in terms of all SEC, all play the position of need. Most of them check every box. Jalon Walker, by most accounts, is a top 10 overall player in this draft. Mykel Williams, most people think, is between 15 to 25. And then, this podcast has a love affair with James Pearce Jr. I know there are people who are skeptical about his off the field kind of vibe, but Mike Garafolo kind of threw some water on that. So again, if you're looking for the heavy hitters, here they are. And speaking of heavy hitters, the Cardinals right now, what do we at on here? I'm bad. Let's see that one more time, Damon. Counting these in real time. These are the publicly known 10 top 30 draft visits. Of the 10, 7 play edge rusher. 7 edge rushers right now. So I think, again, for everybody, we want to romanticize Will Johnson, maybe a tackle. People talking about screwing around, taking a guard or an off-ball linebacker. Get out of here with that. The Cardinals are going to use a top pick on a pass rusher. They're literally vetting everyone, and good, they should.
It's just like wide receiver last year. It really is. I mean, you saw it. They had the 4th overall pick. The entire offseason, it was trending towards them getting their pick of the cream of the crop as far as the best non-quarterback. And they talked to Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Dunze. They even talked to Jalen McMillan, Xavier Worthy, just going down the list here. I mean, they talked to a ton of wide receivers, and they leaned into the strength of that class, and they're going to do it again. Defensive front 7 players. The edge rushing position, man. I mean, and the biggest name to me is James Pearce Jr. because of all the noise surrounding him, the non on the field stuff. The guy only played about 50% of his snaps at Tennessee, and sure, it was a stout defensive front, but what's surrounding him as far as perceived character issues. The Cardinals are clearly doing their due diligence and homework on the SEC ass kicker.
It is the perfect prospect for the Arizona Cardinals to take, both from a realistic standpoint, production standpoint, the way he fits from a physical standpoint. I mean, he's long. It's just, is he somebody you want in your locker room? Is he going to be a pain in the you-know-what for people? Like, that's what they're vetting right now. If they check that box, though, I mean, he is a top target for this team. That nobody questions his athletic ability. Nobody questions the competition. I mean, like, he is. There's a reason why. I think you and I have kind of been in lockstep that, realistically speaking, this is our top target in this draft. But we had no idea up until this point if the Cardinals felt strongly about that, right? Yeah. 6'5", 250. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Brian Burns coming out, who, by the way, went in the middle of the first round to the Carolina Panthers. To me, it's like using a top 30 visit on a kid like this means like you're very serious about potentially making this your pick. Like the people who were dismissing James Pearce Jr. before today, it was like, no, man, like this mirrors need, position value coming together. Now he could go ahead of Arizona, and that would be heartbreaking, but it's like Marv last year. It made too much sense not to happen. And if Marv didn't or doesn't ascend to what we think he can be, I will give Austin Ford a pass for that. If they take James Pearce Jr. and he's a little bit of a, kind of a jerk off the field, but he's productive, like, I will give them a pass for that. I will always say, take a big swing at a great player, even at 16, and you feel like, oh, there could be, I don't want you to take a lesser player because, you're worried about, can he fit in your locker room? Take the best player.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily locker room fit. It comes down to the James Pearce Jr. love ball, right? And that's the one thing that's the kind of the common theme across the locker room, is you've got so many different walks of life coming in and wearing the Arizona Cardinals uniform now under Jonathan Gannon and his new culture that he's built. And a credit to him and in creating the infrastructure that you could take a guy and you wouldn't think twice about, is he going to put himself in a position to take himself off the football field for whatever reason, because he gets into it with his position coach, or he's at odds with his teammates. Like James Pearce Jr. immediately would bring you the most pass rush upside on the defense. Like that's his forte. I mean, the guy had over 22% pressure rate last year for Tennessee. And I know that it's in limited snaps, and you can kind of figure out why that was. But way back when, like when we started, draft season, I went to our graphics guru, Noah, and he asked me, he's like, who would you pick out of the entire class to do like a jersey swap? And we did a James Pearce Jr. one way back when that we never used because of all the stuff that came out like surrounding him. So, but I agree with you. I mean, if you were to say just based on just how he performed at the collegiate level and what he could bring to this defense, it's exactly what they need.
You think about last year and the clip of Dallas Turner popping off at the combine, and then you had Austin Ford kind of do the little shimmy dance in the press box, the suite for the Cardinals and their scouts. And then we heard last year the Cardinals tried to trade up, presumably for Dallas Turner, and they couldn't get a deal done. We had heard that while we were on air last year. We thought it was coming. What Dallas Turner run last year? 4.4 something?
Yeah.
What James Pearce Jr. run a 40 time this year? 4.47. I know it's not apples and oranges, but it's like sometimes you just have a type, right?
He also jumps 40 inches too. I mean, his vert was insane. The explosiveness is off the charts.
I love Cam Scatterbo, and I can also put off to the side that like the Cardinals love RAS scores. No, I'm making a point here.
Yeah. Can you believe Captain Jack Sawyer and James Pearce Jr. play the same position just based off of like
that's so rude.
I mean, it's insane.
That's so rude. The Cardinals love athletic freaks. Fran Duffy comes on our show every Wednesday and says, who are the biggest freak show guys, violent, physical, that have the metrics? This is him. I mean, what do you have? 7.5 sacks this year, 9.5 last year. The production's not an issue. It's like to me, I think now we can come to grips with the fact, like for the next 3 weeks, realistically speaking, then I want to talk about the two Georgia guys. This is our guy. And we are going to squeeze this orange as much as we can. The next time we have Garafolo on, like, who is it trending on being? I feel like right now, if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan, that he has got to be. We did our Big Five yesterday. We put him in there, and people are like, I don't know about James Pearce Jr. You don't? I think I know about him. I think he could be the pick now at 16.
You sure about that? Are you sure about that? Yeah. I mean, the guy.
What about an off-ball linebacker, Johnny?
Right. And I mean, it's when you're going, your buddy's going out on a third date with the girl, right? I mean, it's like things getting a little serious here. This isn't speed dating. This isn't. You're not texting back and forth.
Yeah.
This is a top 30 visit. They met up at the combine. You could say things are getting a little serious.
I guess you could say things are pretty serious.
Right.
I mean, we talked real quick. We talked about it yesterday. Could you imagine a defensive line? Sweat, Tomlinson, Campbell, Robinson, James Pearce Jr. I wouldn't even know what to do with myself.
Right.
Going to training camp, I'd be like, who are these players? Who is this team?
I see Canyon Man up there saying I meant no disrespect to, of course, our guy Damon Dawg, who's a do it. He can do everything, right? It's just we have a graphics guru. He would even give Noah his flowers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can't do a jersey swap like Noah.
Right. So I just no disrespect, Johnny style, but I'm not going to roast Damon Dawg.
Respectfully, Damon's graphics stink compared to Noah's.
That's not what I was going to do there. So, but can we put up the top 30 real quick? And I know we're going to get more into exactly, man, what a turn here we've gotten in the last 48 hours. But now, like at 16, you can say that there's some legitimate candidates, like just the pass rushers alone, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, James Pearce, Jalon Walker, and then bring in the defensive back, Will Johnson. And I think like you can talk yourself into most of them outside. I think Stewart's probably a guy that's on the fringe there.
Like if James Pearce Jr. and Stewart are there at the same point, like that's an easy decision. Stewart, I mean, it's not just as like tackle for losses. It's just like total tackles. Like, where is he? Where is he on the field? You know where James Pearce Jr. is? Michael Williams, to me, if he checks out medically, is a very sound pick. there were people today, like every time it's like my algorithm on Twitter is feeding me Carolina draft secrets. And somebody today came out and said, like, the Panthers love Mykel Williams at 9. The Panthers just love everybody. The Panthers just putting it out there. You know what they're doing? They're trying to play damage control after their tell-all with Tay Adams. And they're actually like, we like Mykel Williams and Landon Jackson and all these players. But in all seriousness, I think this is the group that you want to go to war for. Will Johnson, Mykel Williams, Jalon Walker, James Pearce Jr. Like, those are the guys we should feel good about. And then, Josh Simmons, we like him. I think we're all in agreement. Like, he's not probably off this injury. He's probably not worth the top 20 pick. That doesn't mean I think he's going to be a bad player, right? Same thing with, I don't think Kelvin Banks Jr. is a comparable prospect to the guys we're talking about. I don't know how anybody didn't look at that top 30 list with Cam Scatterbo, who is in his own special category. Like 7 of the next 9 players play the same position.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals were poverty among poverty at edge rusher the last 2 years. And I love Josh Sweat, but I love Mike Garafolo making a point of like, Sweat, you have Sweat, so then you can be a bridge to whomever you draft. Like, you can have both, right?
Right.
Same, like a bunch of people in the know nationally are saying that, right? People who are not in the know are basically saying like, well, you can roll with Baron Browning. No, we're not doing that. Baron Browning and Zaven Collins playing meaningful snaps at edge rusher will get you beat. That's been made an assumption, fact. They're basically both on 1-year deals with very little money guaranteed. They are backups, and they're great backups. You do not have a starting opposite edge rusher to Josh Sweat, which, by the way, we said in free agency. We opened up free agency, said this team does not have 2 starting edge rushers on the roster, even with Baron Browning. And guess who knows that? Monty Ossenford.
Right. Well, it's just like building a bullpen in baseball, right?
Yeah.
You want to have a diverse set of arms, right? You don't want guys that just come in and throw 98, right? Because you're going to be able to time it, and you're going to think by the end of the season, you're going to have a bad bullpen. But if you've got a pretty diverse set of skill sets out there, you've got, your righty lefty combos, you got your junk throwers, you got your guys that come in and throw gas. Like, you want that. Like, Zaven Collins is a guy that if you're to break down his game, he probably thrives more as far as against the run and in coverage, and then also struggles as far as getting to the passer. So then you're going to want to have guys whose skill set are geared up as far as pinning their ears back and getting after opposing quarterbacks. Like, of course, you want a complete pass rusher. And I think, Josh Sweat probably is like the most sound across the board and the guy that's going to be a starter. But then you've got guys their skill sets vary and they have different strengths. And if you bring in somebody in the draft that can come in and almost definitively be your best pass rusher, I think that just adds to his pen or stable of his pass rush rotation, which is great.
They have so many good options. This top 10 to 12 is going to be so intriguing because there is so much uncertainty. We're just going to be holding on for dear life with some of these guys. I think Jalon Walker probably goes before the Cardinals, but everybody else we've talked about feel pretty good about the Cardinals' odds to get one of them. And again, like, you just paid Trey McBride as a 2nd-round pick to be the highest paid tight end in the NFL. I don't want to be screwing around. These other franchises that are about to take Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren and the tight end from Michigan and an off-ball linebacker, let those franchises make those decisions. Right. Where I think those guys are good football players, but then you're taking Tyler Warren and saying you have to be Trey McBride, which is a losing proposition, right? Which is what the Cardinals have done historically. Lose in the first round, bust after bust. Take a kid in James Pearce Jr. or Mykel Williams, who it's like, hey, you know what a good year for you is? 8 to 10 sacks. You know what's going to get you paid? Doing that every year, even if you're not in the top 20% of your position. That's called a premium position, friends.
Yeah. It would benefit. The good thing about James Pearce Jr., James JPJ getting back into it broadens the field, right? Because like between him and Mike Green, like there's too many talented guys that you had to take out of the field potentially. That the league doing all their homework together is all identifying like, hey, there's some deal breakers here. There's too many red flags to where the Cardinals are saying, James Pearce Jr. we've got something that we feel like we can work with here. Now we'll find out, what their thoughts are on Mike Green, I think, between now and draft day. But like the other thing here with Jalon Walker is if Jalon Walker is there at 16 and you hear all these great things about Jalon Walker and his versatility, I'm one of those guys. I'm like, hey, he can play the outside linebacker spot almost perfectly for Nick Rallis in Jonathan Gannon and his defense. It's not something that I think they should discount, is that there's a league here that is saying no, like they don't believe his skill set will translate. But yeah, if you're watching with many of our streaming partners, make sure you jump over to gophnx.com. Continue the conversation here as far as the Cardinals and their top 30 visits here. But yeah, like Jalon Walker, Johnny, like I think like it's not something like you can believe in Monty Ossenfort and think that he can see something that other GMs don't. But I would be concerned if Jalon Walker is making his way and dropping down the draft board considerably come April 24th.
You know who can tell Monty Ossenfort if Jalon Walker can rush the passer? Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis. So if they want to take him, I have no issue with that. Here's what I think that this pick signifies, this top 30 visit. What did Jonathan Gannon tell us at the Combine in the interview with us?
You're my best friend. Guys. Oh, did he not say that to you?
He said he brought in guys. They would bring in guys into their room, be like, why are you talking to me? You don't have a top 10 pick. Not yet.
Yeah.
What if Jalon Walker falls to New Orleans or Chicago wants to trade down? I think Jalon Walker, if they hit it off, is a trade-up candidate in this scenario. I think if they think Jalon Walker can be Micah Parsons' freak show, edge rusher extraordinaire, this is a player that you trade up for. That's the only – because I'm with you. Because if he starts falling, then it's like, oh, no, is this guy an off-ball linebacker, Isaiah Simmons kind of player, and we don't want any part of that, okay? And I don't want to subscribe to groupthink. I think most people feel like Jalon Walker now, we've had enough time, I've gotten over it, can be an effective edge rusher. And again, like, look what Gannon did with Hassan Reddick out of Temple. I think if we look at that, let's pull up the draft order right now, because I love doing it. I'm going to do it every show, Damon Dawg. If we're sitting here, Jets, Panthers pass on him, Saints are poverty. They have no picks. Bears are, and you never know. What if the Cardinals wanted to get in front of San Francisco for Jalon Walker and just snipe Jalon Walker away from the 49ers? I think that's why you bring him in. Do your due diligence. If you hit it off, you love him. He and Rallis are vibing at the whiteboard, and it's like, we have to get him if he falls. If all these other teams in the top 10 are idiotic, they're taking running backs and tight ends.
Yeah.
And immobile quarterbacks, we're going to go up and get him. Would have no issue with that. No issue at all.
Somebody takes Shamar Stewart. Like, yes, thank you. We'll take the playmaking defensive player out of Georgia. Yeah, look, I mean, I know crazier things have happened, but I also think like you have to really trust your scouting here and not like the previous regime saying, well, this guy's versatility that's the biggest thing we love about him. Whereas that's not the best thing that you need to be looking for as far as players, especially in the first round. Like this jack of all trades, master of none thing. It's not great in the NFL.
I will say we put out our starting depth chart yesterday, and I do feel like Jalon Walker fits in that Baron Browning role that we have right there pretty well, right?
Yeah,
like you only have one off-ball linebacker on the field in Mack Wilson in this scenario. You can rush with the 4 other D linemen out there, Josh Sweat and the 3 guys on the line. And then Jalon Walker can kind of be that hybrid role. I think it fits perfectly.
But doesn't like the 3 guys that Mike Garafolo added to the top 30 visits, like they all give me, I'm encouraged if any of those guys playing off that Browning role.
For sure. I think that he fits it the best though, because I think Browning would have to work off ball a little bit in this scenario.
That's a good point, Damon. I'm 1,000%. Like Sweat is the anchor on the opposite side that kind of does everything above average. You want your most athletic pass rusher playing where Baron Browning is. And that is reserved for whomever they take at 16. That like Zaven Collins is going to back up Josh Sweat, and then James Pearce Jr. is going to be backed up, or Mykel Williams or Jalon Walker is going to be backed up by Baron Browning. And then it will feed families. That defensive line is unrecognizable. They have actual depth. They have real players.
Yeah.
And this team that is projected to win over under 8.5 games you're just going to be smashing that over with our friends at Bet365.
Just a massive facelift, like insane.
It needed to be done though. It was so bad. We would come on the show. I would come on the show from June through September last year. And I'm like, you can't keep getting away with this. They can't keep trotting this unit out. And now it's like 90% of those guys are gone and they have just taken a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
They have not made a meaningful transaction that was not defensive line associated this offseason.
Let me ask you this on a day that we celebrate the Cardinals signing Trey McBride to a 4-year contract extension, highest paid tight end in NFL history.
Yeah.
Days after bringing back just a franchise favorite in Calais Campbell on a 1-year deal, chump change, right? To really kind of tie up his really awesome career where it started. And then we're looking at really bolstering your front seven after a pretty successful offseason. What are you grading Monty Ossenfort's offseason right now?
I've been a good sport, and I've left my tweet up from maybe Wednesday when I did that fun 80s graphic, and it said maybe Monty Ossenfort is just bad at this. And I'm not going to delete it because I'm a good sport. I would get right now A- probably. I think it has to be over a B just because like Campbell, Tomlinson are B+ moves. Sweat's an A move. He was a top free agent. Like we said, you have to sign a top 10 free agent. He did that. You have to add defensive tackles. He did that. 2 starting caliber ones. Tomlinson, they didn't want to release him. They had to because they had to overpay for Myles Garrett. And then Calais Campbell, Miami wanted him back. Said no. And then McBride's extension is done. Evan Brown, Baron Browning, come back for no money. Zay Jones. I mean, if he gets one of these pass rushers at 16, I mean, for me, and this is not going to be the case for you, the only thing that keeps it from an A+, if he gets James Pearce Jr. at 16 and we exit draft weekend with Cam Scatterboo, that's A+. That's an A+. I'm being serious. You think I'm kidding? Like, to get an A+ for me, Scat's got to be a Cardinal. Sorry.
I mean, there were people out there, there were pundits, there were analysts or whatever, they were calling Cardinals losers after, week 1 of free agency, and they didn't realize there was more to do.
Who was it, Matt Miller?
Yeah. Matt Miller, who, what did I see Matt Miller do today? It had me laughing.
Running segment on this show. I'm sorry.
Good God, I couldn't remember what he was on with.
He talked about Jackson Dart going
in
the lock first round pick, top 20 guy.
Yeah, I'll have to remember. It was something more recent than that. He was saying top 10 with Jackson Dart at one point. Man, but yeah, I think that you couldn't grade anything lower, B+ with the ability to get a high score of A+.
I mean, like, we've exited 2 drafts. We felt pretty good about both of them. Like the weekend of, like, I love the Paris pick. You got a future won that first draft. Like, that was an A draft. Last year, it was going to be tough not to ace that draft because of all the picks that you had in the first round. This year, like, he's going up or going down. Like, he can't not make a move.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first round, if these pass rushers start to fall and he goes back a couple picks, gets another pick, grabs one. Yeah. I mean, Ossenfort, to me, this is the kind of season that offseason he had to have, where, like, we talked to people within that organization and people close to it. Gannon and Ossenfort have secure, like, job security through this year. Like, I don't know if that needs to be confirmed. Gannon's got all the cachet in the world, right? He's the best coach they've had since Bruce Arians, in my opinion. But at the same time, like, as Gannon told us at the Combine, you have to win games. They have to win. Yeah. And as much as, like, we can romanticize some of the moves Ossenfort's made in the past, if they don't make the playoffs this year, save for, like, winning 10 games and then weird stuff happens, like, there's going to be heat on them. Well, guess what? The best way to win games is to improve your roster. And the narrative that was out there that Ossenfort was just not going to do that, that was so dumb. They had almost $80 million. And people are like, they're not going to spend. It's like, okay, so Ossenfort is going to get one shot to be a GM and he's not going to spend and he's going to get fired and have to move his family across country again. Are you insane?
The different ends of the spectrum that you tap into when you say James Pearce Jr., which is a great take that that I agree with you on, and then you immediately pivot to Cam Scatterboo. It blows me away. Like I've never seen anybody kind of ride that line. That's so there's such a significant, difference between the two of them. Like it's like you give me really good financial advice, and then I look down and you're wearing like yellow Crocs. I'm like, can I trust this guy? Like he's making good points, but he's rocking some really crazy looking Crocs.
Crocs are super comfortable, just like having Cam Scatterboo in your locker room. It's comfort. I mean, Cam Scatterboo,
is he just like, is he the Croc of the NFL draft class?
Cam Scatterboo's comfort food for all of us. If you don't think for a second, so our draft coverage starts in 3 weeks. Okay. I always do a day 2 mock for free at gophnx.com. You're welcome. Every pick. If we get to day 3, if we end Friday night in studio, me, you, Damon, Dawg, and Scatterboo has not been selected yet, I'm going to tell you right now, get ready to work overtime. We will do a mock draft on air ahead of day 3 for every pick ahead of the Cardinals to see the best route to get Scatterboo. And that will be probably how much time is between, rounds 3 and 4 in terms of like physical time. I think it's like 12 hours. That's going to be the longest 12 hours for a lot of us, where like it's over. The comp picks in the 3rd round are done. And then this is
I'm going to be sleeping so hard that night. I'm not going to I'm going to have a second thought about it. Like, oh God, I got to sit here and do this mock draft with Johnny, and poor Damon is stuck here. Just Johnny forcing us through it. And then we'll get in the next morning, and then the Cardinals will be on the clock. They don't take Scat again, and Johnny's going to be devastated.
That would be a horror show. If we got to don't you shake your head, young man. Don't do that. Drop a like on this video. We got 1,200 watching live. If you're watching on Twitter, jump on over to YouTube. We need your likes. We need your subscribes. We are barreling toward 40K right now, subscribers here. It's the #1 Arizona Cardinal podcast. Big things. Mike Garafolo, the top 30 made all the headlines.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson stuff. I mean, the Bengals remain, disgruntled. Let's talk about Asante Samuel stuff. Just confirming not going to happen right now. Medical. I mean, that's a guy. Could we be sitting in here in like July, August, and maybe he gets reevaluated by some teams?
Yeah. I mean, it's the words around the league, and it's not just, hey, he's coming back from ACL surgery, which has become so routine in the league.
Right.
He's dealing with stingers in both shoulders, right? I mean, this is where he was already kind of knocked for his tackling ability or lack thereof. I think that it's unfortunate for a guy like Asante Samuel Jr. to where he's really going to have to prove it this offseason. Do the Cardinals want to be one of those teams, come June or July? Would they kick the tires on him? Potentially, but yeah, it's really unfortunate for the guy.
Yeah, it is. No other visits scheduled. So we talked about that. I mean, international game, we'll know hopefully, right, when everybody else does. Would love to go international with PHNX Cardinals this fall, but would love to jump into your super chats here. 9 and counting. Get them in. We'll read them all. We're here until you guys tell us to leave. Richard, $4.99, kicking us off. Sweet baby Trevor from PFF has Scatterboo going in the 2nd round. I knew Trevor's this brilliant man. Thoughts? Is that too high? Cam is his 3rd best running back in the draft. Well, I'll defer to Bo Brack because surely Bo will not besmirch Trevor Sickham's draft acumen.
I would never do that, but I also will disagree with him here. I do think 2nd round is too rich for Cam Scatterboo. I've seen different running back rankings where Scatterboo I don't know if I've seen him as high as 2nd or 3rd any longer. Not since Peach Bowl days, and that seemed forever ago. There's some prospects that put on some shows at the combine, and Scat's 4.65 is at the bottom of his position. I just don't. I understand it's more than just running forward in a straight line. At the same time, like there's some impressive prospects there. Congratulations to Trevor and his new bride. I saw he got married recently. Johnny was wondering why we didn't get the invite. Damon probably as well, but it's probably
his wife. Very funny joke on Twitter. Did you see it? It was like a wedding photo of them, and she goes, "He's probably thinking about releasing a new mock draft." And then it was like Trevor Sikkema semicolon. I'm thinking about releasing my new mock draft. It was pretty great.
All that, risking it all on his wedding day for a Cam Scatterbo in the second round. A bit rich.
Let's get to pick and spreads. Donnie, friend of the program, $4.99. Draft in 3 weeks. I also dropping my final top 200 board in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. Also, do you have a plan to have another fan AZ mock draft before the draft? Remember we did the mock drafts last year? People send them in. Hell yeah, we'll do that again. Yeah. Let's do that, Donnie, a week from Friday. So we'll give everybody a week. So a week from Friday, we'll notify everybody during next week. Send us your mock drafts. We'll read them on air and we'll grade them. It'll be much more.
We'll grade through booms.
Yes. I think it'll be like last year. We got a lot of chalk, right? Brendan Rice was in everybody's mock. Marv was in everybody's mock.
Yeah.
This year it could be wild. So yeah, Donnie, we will definitely do that. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, great idea. Amadeus, $4.99. John Middlecoff said that the Cardinals regret taking MHJ over Neighbors.
I love John Middlecoff. I listened to his podcast. That's his opinion. He doesn't know that. He doesn't talk to people with the Cardinals. I think it's easy for people to draw that conclusion after 1 year. I think the only person that's in control of that right now is Marvin Harrison Jr. And we're going to know definitively this year, I think, who's the better player, or if they're equally great. I'm not selling any MHJ stock. I'm buying it all.
No. We'll see who ends up being the one throwing him the football, and all of them have the ability to spam Neighbors the rock, and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, maybe Shedeur Sanders. But yeah, I think it's a bit early in the game to call that one Neighbors, and that the Cardinals would be regret. Like, I don't think there's anybody that's built like that in the Cardinals organization that would be sitting here and be like, man, I really regret this Marv pick. I just don't. They're not. They wouldn't just be down on their luck and say, well, you got to give it to the Giants. They got the right guy, and we got the wrong one. Just 1 year in the books for those guys.
If you remember too, like Mike Evans had a better year than. Was it who? No, AJ Green had a better rookie season, or no, was it Julio Jones? Well, like this is all cyclical. I think Julio had a better rookie year than AJ Green, and then they went back and forth. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr. will be just fine. He'll be just fine. Reezy Baby, $5. Hold the line round 1 for James Pearce, and then round 2 Donovan Jackson. I will die on this hill. It's a great hold the line. Those are great candidates, Reezy.
Yeah, I like both of them. Both positions of need. Love it from Reezy Baby. Thank you for the $5 super chat. How about our guy Tyler P checking in $6.99? If Pearce is the target at 16, I wonder if the Cards felt incentivized to bring back Calais Campbell for Calais to show Pearce what it means to be a pro on the defensive line.
We talked about it yesterday. I think Calais, you bring Calais in because he's still a good football player.
Yeah.
But then you get all the extra stuff that comes with it. If there was every year for you to take a guy where you're like, I don't know about, this dude's personality, this is the year to do it. You're not doing it last year with a top 5 pick. You're picking 16. I think, because if you hit on James Pearce, then it's a home run. Like, he's a player talent-wise, and I'm staunchly committed to this. That's worth the top 10 pick.
Josh, $2. Hold the line. James Pearce Jr.
I feel like a new name has emerged here 3 weeks out for the Hold the Line crew.
Taco Corp, one of my favorite corporations, $4.99. Any possibility they move Zaven back inside based on the skill set? He could be more valuable in the middle of the field.
Well, Bo, you're at practice every day.
Yeah.
It's just not something that they feel like his best traits are utilized.
No, I mean, I think that they viewed his skill set was better served playing outside linebacker in their defense. And I think they went to Zaven, and this is just speculative, but I would say like, hey, this is going to be your chance to, survive at the NFL level. I don't think it is. I don't think his skill set is best at off-ball linebacker in today's NFL. Like, how many guys play at his size at 6'5", play inside linebacker?
I mean,
Like Roquan Smith's probably like the biggest guy.
They want rangy guys that are about 6'1", 6'2", at the tallest, at the highest, maybe 6 foot, that can fly. And Zaven Collins is kind of a lumbering guy, and they feel like he's strong as all hell. And he sets the edge as a run defense. He's a run defending outside linebacker, edge rusher. He doesn't have any pass rush juice. Go ahead.
Indigenous Daddy, $5. Get Landon Jackson and let the two Giants tip balls to the secondary. Love Landon Jackson in the second round.
Trade down, get more picks. You want to take him. I think you got guys that you want to take at 16, and if they're not available, then you try like hell to trade down and help yourself there. Neoman 15, $4.99. Bo, JG said he wants a 1-2 punch at running back. Have JC mentor Benson and Scat to be that next year. Wow. I like it. I like it.
So the 1-2 punch, you need two people to vie to be two, right?
I think
have tryouts.
Red shirt. I mean, Taylor Demerson was a good player. He basically got red shirted. Do the same thing with Cam Scatterbo. Let me make a point. I want to make a point here.
Okay. On Scat?
Yeah. Can I make a point?
So many points on Scat.
Okay, I won't do it.
No, go ahead. The floor is yours. It's 5:52. Go ahead.
There are going to be a lot of people, if Cam Scatterbo is not a great NFL player, even a good NFL player, that are going to come at me, and a lot of Cam Scatterbo supporters talking about Homer Ball. And I'm going to speak into the camera to those people right now. Part of the allure for me with Cam Scatterbo is the impact off the field for this franchise. And I think it's worth the investment. If you hit on a running back, great. That's awesome. But then the impact that he would bring, the cachet, the juice, I think it's worth the pick. That is what is partially driving this. Like we sit here and we break down metrics, and I talk about guys that aren't our cup of tea based on 40 times and production. Like, I understand where people have an issue with Cam Scatterbo's limitations athletically. But I think it's just worth the risk right now for a team that has welcomed 20-plus draft picks the last 2 years to say, I don't know, let's roll the dice on a kid in the middle rounds, as you heard Garafolo talk about, rounds where guys can be cut at any minute, on a kid that if you hit on him, it is so impactful for this franchise off the field. That is my argument. We're talking about international games, primetime games. Cam Scatterbo helps you get those kind of games.
I don't think Bo's listening to you.
End of rant.
Are you done? Okay.
I will say, in defense of Johnny, if any franchise needs that, it's this franchise.
No doubt.
And there's something to be said about, loser ass Dolphins fans running around in Arizona that have lived here their whole lives and don't like the Cardinals, right? Like, that's a problem we have. And the ASU kids that grew up and just watch Scat, it might drive them to become Cardinals fans. So I don't know. I could see that side of things, Johnny.
And they select Scat, and he never plays, and he becomes this like sideshow. And he just becomes like the same former ASU running backs that they brought into the organization.
Well, this would be great. Expanded
tenfold. And Eno Benjamin and DJ Foster. It's like what's really going to endear the Arizona Cardinals and broaden their fan base is winning football games. And by doing that, you need guys that fit roles and fill out your roster. And Cam Scatterbo, I think he could be a winning football player. But like, as far as the Cardinals' needs and those roles they need to fill, just don't see it there. Don't see it working out for Cam right now.
Wow. It's hurtful. No. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And Bo and I mean, we've agreed a lot this draft season. We were bound to have some things that we disagreed on, like some of the picks from last year. Bo hated Chop Robinson. I did not like Ladd McConkey. We both ended up being on the wrong side of both those arguments. So drop a like on this video. Man, what a show we've had today.
It's been a banner show. I feel like Garafolo had such a performance today, and then even beyond that, with this tweet mid-interview. I'm considering, if you don't know, we're expecting our second child. I might name him Garafolo at this point.
I was wondering where that was going.
Garafolo Brack. What do you think?
Listen, I think that either is going to freak Mike out a little bit, or that'll secure us, a forever hit on the show.
He's got a forever fan in me. Just his performance today was elite.
Special.
Yeah, it was.
Get emotional talking about it.
People will bring up the April 3rd, 2025 PHNX Cardinals episode. You brought up I like that from Dana. As of today, Johnny, you want to hit this one?
Can't even pronounce it after pronouncing it yesterday. I was Ezeraku. I nailed it yesterday, and today I got cold feet. Dana's a fan of Ezeraku. It's good pass rush class.
There was one of those aggregate accounts. I think I sent you and Damon this today. They were mining for some clicks and some engagement. They said, who's going to have a better next decade at the wide receiver position? And it was Marvin Harrison Jr. and Lambeau Ladd McConkey.
It was the MFJ, MF whatever.
ML football or MI football or whatever.
Just the worst. No one's worse than Dove, the new Dove, but that guy, whomever runs that account's pretty garbage still.
And you got people, and you have people saying Ladd McConkey.
This league is so reactionary. Ladd had a great year, but I mean, talk about being spam targets. Like the Chargers had nobody at wideout.
Yeah,
they had. I mean, give him credit. He made plays. I still contend that Marvin was held back by the Cardinals' infrastructure and play calling at, impacting him at the wide receiver position. You bring up your wife and you were expecting this summer. I have not been asked yet to be a godparent for this child. I'm assuming you're waiting to do an on air, to surprise me. So I'm just putting that out there into the YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to see how this draft goes and how you handle some of your draft favorites not making their way to the Cardinals organization. And then maybe we'll make a decision there.
If you want to talk about must-see podcasting TV, our draft coverage, if you're not in Arizona, subscribe to this podcast. We go live, not for one round, not for an hour. We're live for the entire draft. We're live the entirety of round one with our friends at Gila at the draft party. Get your tickets now. We're live rounds 2 and 3 on Friday nights in studio. And then Saturday we get up and we're live all day Saturday through rounds 4 through 7. And there's some lean picks, my guy, coming around the bend. Let's hope for some trade downs. Let's hope for some fun. But again, if you're just joining us, this is your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. What a show today. What a time.
Huge show. Yep. Look for all the supplemental content coming your way about the Trey McBride extension. More stuff from our guy, Fran Duffy, yesterday, really giving us some valuable insight as far as this class goes. Scat, T-Mac. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, at PHNX_Cardinals. Johnny Venerable, Damon, Dawg, me, Bo Brack. Thank you for the fun here on a Thursday show. Tomorrow, we wrap up a big week. Friday edition, 4:30. Don't miss it. PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.